The Eternals were made as an offshoot of the evolutionary process that created sentient life on Earth. The original instigators of this process, the Celestials, intended the Eternals to be the defenders of Earth, which leads to the inevitable war against their destructive counterparts, the Deviants. The Celestials traveled to Earth ages ago to create 100 Eternals and 100 Deviants. But which Eternals are the ones that we should fear? That's what we're exploring today. Greetings, Nerd Squad, and welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. I'm Connor Monroe, and this is the Top 10 Most Powerful Eternals. Let's do it. And at 10, Ultimus. Ultimus is an ancient and mysterious Kree/Eternal hybrid and tragic anti-villain. Introduced as an enemy to Thor in the mighty Thor number 209, Ardcon is the last of the Kree Eternals who were created by the Celestials, just like the Earth Eternals, by experimenting on the primitive people. The Kree Eternals went to Earth where they were worshipped as gods by the Celts, but the Eternals soon left, leaving Ardcon to be imprisoned by Tantalus. 3,000 years later, Ardcon was finally freed by Thor slamming Mjolnir into the ground to turn himself into Donald Blake. Confused, enraged, and calling himself the Demon Druid, Ardcon rampaged through London and confronted Thor. Despite Thor's efforts, Demon Druid managed to reach Stonehenge and use it to get back into space in search for the other Kree Eternals. After discovering him to be the last of the Kree Eternal, he renamed himself Ultimus and was contacted by the Supreme Intelligence, who recruited him into the Starforce team. And at 9, Zuras. Zuras, like every Eternal, was created by the Celestials 1 million years ago and has looked after humanity ever since. Despite being more unified than ever before, the Eternals still disagreed on the core goals of their society. The majority of the Eternals, led by Zuras, believed that they shouldn't tinker with their cosmic potential and no new Eternal should be created. But his brother Alars, and a small fraction of their numbers, believed that they should keep expanding the machine and create new Eternals via biological and technological methods. Zuras possessed the conventional attributes of his race, as well as many special abilities developed through millennia of rigorous discipline, such as invulnerability, flight, cosmic energy manipulation, matter manipulation, telepathy, teleportation, and is credited with initiating the creation of the Unimind, so a pretty good leader and powerful ally all around. And at 8, Interloper. Very little was known about the past of the mysterious being who called himself Interloper. He was one of the Eternals of Earth, although for unknown reasons he chose to have little to do with them or with the rest of humanity. Actually, kinda get that. However, he was known to be friends with the Eternal known as the Forgotten One. Interloper fought the evil cosmic being known as the Dragon of the Moon many times. His first battles with the dragon were off of planet Earth alongside his fellow Eternals. Apparently, these battles were on Saturn's moon Titan, and Interloper fought alongside the Eternals of Titan. Later, Interloper alone fought the dragon on Earth. Interloper's final battle with the dragon before recent times took place in the 6th century AD. The dragon had allied himself with Mordred, leader of the forces at war with King Arthur of Camelot, and during the final battle between Arthur's forces and Mordred's, Interloper and his allies succeeded in somehow imprisoning the dragon somewhere in space. It seemed that Interloper incorrectly believed that they had destroyed the dragon, but Arthur and Mordred mortally wounded each other during the battle, and both died. So he kinda forgot about that. And at 7, Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh's brute strength causes him to be recognized as one of the physically strongest Eternals, but he's also often seen as a pariah among his fellow specimen members and prefers to spend time with human society instead. For centuries, he's traveled around the world with various historical figures, including Hercules, but eventually he learned of his true heritage, and Zuras confirmed the Forgotten One to a sector of the Eternal City of Olympia. It is said that his reason for this action was the Forgotten One's pride and his insistence on intervening in human affairs, but as of yet no details of these charges have ever been revealed. The Forgotten One remains banished to this sector, with the other Eternals shunned for centuries. While virtually all the Eternals were meeting in the form of the Unimind though, the Deviants, who are the natural enemies of the Eternals, launched a spacecraft containing a powerful energy bomb in the hope of destroying the mothership of the 4th host of the Celestials. Sprite sought out the Forgotten One and equipped him with an armored costume and a spaceship, and no, I'm not talking about the soda brand. The Forgotten One traveled into space, and the 4th host's leader, the one above all, teleported him to the Deviant spacecraft. The Forgotten One wrecked the energy bomb and its spacecraft just before the moment of detonation. Attaboy. And at 6, Sersi. It is known that she encountered the Greek hero Odysseus during his 10-year journey home known as the Odyssey. She turned Odysseus' companions into pigs, but Odysseus, who had been given a magical herb by Hermes, resisted her witchcraft. Sersi, for some reason, maybe it's his resistance, fell in love with Odysseus and transformed the pigs back into men. After they stayed on the island for 1 year, they continued on their voyage. As Sersi, with C's, she also impersonated all the evils that escaped Pandora's box. In modern times though, she lived in New York City when the fourth host of Celestials arrived on Earth. Ikaris left Margot Damien in her care while he went off to defend the city against the Deviants' attack, but when he was captured, Sersi alerted the other Eternals, and then was captured herself by Crow's forces. She was released when a truce was reached, and was a part of the group who revealed the race's existence to Professor Samuel Holden. Sersi's powers include near immortality, super strength, the healing factor, telepathy, illusions, telekinesis, flight, image projection, cosmic energy projection, teleportation, matter transmutation, and as well being a skilled dancer and fashion designer, both of which are superpowers in today's society. However, according to Sprite, he was the only straight male Eternal that Sersi hadn't bedded at some point, due to him having the body of a child, which is certainly an interesting point. Halfway through into number 5, Makkari. Throughout the ages, Makkari, who was male for most of their life, spent much time helping humanity prosper in civilizations such as ancient Egypt and Greece. During World War II, they had many adventures under the name Hurricane. In the 21st century, after having their memories erased by the mischievous Eternal known as Sprite, Makkari was also chosen by an incredibly powerful being known as the Dreaming Celestial to be the Celestial's single point of contact with Eternals. With the death of the Dreaming Celestial, Makkari, now a woman, spent all of her resources trying to somehow reach the dead Celestial, but was unsuccessful, losing her speech and hearing in the process. Like all Eternals, their life force is augmented by cosmic energy, and they have total mental control over their physical form and bodily processes even when they're asleep or unconscious. As a result, Makkari is unable to die by aging and is resistant to diseases and toxins, as well as being the fastest Eternal, having spent years honing their speed. And in 4th, Thena. Initially going by the name Zuras, Thena encountered the deviant known as Crow around 100,000 years ago, and the two began a relationship which was frowned upon by her people, because you know, they're literally created to be your enemies, forcing them to end things. Later on, the Eternal Sersi confronted Azura after she took another deviant lover, but she claimed that Zygo was different and that he was a man of science. With no option but to tell her the truth though, Sersi led Azura down a cave where they found a pool of blood and bodies. There, Zygo had been replacing his own organs with primitive human ones, and Neanderthal organs to extend their own life, and was studying Thena to try to improve this process, which just goes to show you that bad boys ain't worth the trouble. A couple decades later, Thena and Crow met once again and made love during a war in Southeast Asia. Thanks for helping, guys. Resulting in Thena becoming pregnant with their twin heirs. Given their mixed ancestry, Thena placed their embryos inside of one Miss Ritter, an infertile woman who raised them as her own twin children, Donald and Deborah. Thena is an Eternal who is capable of manipulating cosmic energy for a variety of purposes, such as photokinesis, thermokinesis, concussive blasts, weapon manifestation, and molecular manipulation, as well as the classic Eternal powers of flight, essentially immortality, and superhuman every other trait imaginable. However, below average human judgment, am I right? Actually, nowadays it seems to be typical human judgment. Getting close to the end in number 3, Ikaris. Ikaris lived for hundreds of centuries on Earth as humanity evolved and developed. Throughout his time, Ikaris had many adventures battling the opposing genetic offshoot race for the humans, the Deviants, who were created at the same time as and who for some reason have a never-ending hate for the Eternals. Ikaris also spent much of his life preparing for the return of the cosmic beings known as the Celestials, and he had helped welcome them when they returned to Earth in the 20th century. Like almost all Eternals, Ikaris went mad and killed himself when he found out the dark secret of his race's purpose on Earth, but he was reborn later. Ikaris also helped fight the power-hungry Mad Titan Thanos on 2 occasions. He also has total mental control over his physical form and bodily processes, cause you know what I mean when I say processes, even when he's asleep or unconscious. And that's actually pretty sick, and has the classic powers of immortality, superhuman everything, regeneration, flight, psychic abilities allowing him to scan thoughts of any mind less adept than his, telepathy, telekinesis, cosmic energy manipulation, teleportation, enhanced senses, creating illusions, the works. And he went toe to toe with Red Hulk, plus, you know, immortality. Penultimately, and at number 2, Ajak. Ajak lived much of her life away from the rest of the Eternals, choosing instead to live with a select few of her species in the city of Polaria. Ajak dedicated much of her life to learning how to communicate with the epic beings who created their species, the Celestials, in their native tongue. Which, I mean, that's kinda nuts. She was a member of the subgroup of Eternals known as the Polar Eternals, and her parents were Raykar and Amma, and she had a brother named Ikaris. After the massacre of the Eternals in the wake of discovering their true purpose, Ajak was resurrected as a woman. Eternals like Ajak possess total conscious control over their molecular structures, which are reinforced by cosmic energy, and as a result they are virtually immortal, indestructible, and are invulnerable to any force weaker than their own cosmic energies or just total molecular disintegration. You gotta get rid of every last ounce of them, otherwise nope, they're coming back. Which I've gotta say though, pretty badass. Finally, in at number 1, Kronos. Kronos and his brother Uranos were of the ruling class of Eternals countless years ago. Uranos craved battle and conquest, and the war broke out between the Eternals who followed Uranos and those who sought peace, led by Kronos. When Uranos was defeated, he and his followers were exiled into space, and Kronos became the sole ruler of the Eternals of Earth. 500,000 years ago though, Kronos was working in his laboratory in the Earth Eternal city of Titanos on an experiment with cosmic energy, when he had accidentally caused an explosion that destroyed Titanos and his physical body. However, his mind survived and he became one with the universe and time. Kronos possesses a level of intelligence that ranks far above superhuman, as well as telepathy and cosmic awareness. He can evidently exert control over the souls of deceased mortals, even to the extent of using them to animate artificial bodies, which he can create from inanimate matter. Kronos has also become one of the embodiments of time, and as such can exert an unknown amount of degree of control over its flow, which he does in a very subtle way when required. Thanos classified him at the same power level of Galactus, Zeus, and Odin, which makes sense given that he is named after Zeus's father Kronos, the Titan. So I'd say that makes him probably the strongest. The powers, though, not the name. There we have it, friends, the top 10 most powerful Eternals. Who's your favorite Eternal, and who did you expect to see on this list? Be sure you let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.